What is a thought? Hi, I'm John. Welcome to Philosopher's Corner. What is a thought? We're going to be speaking philosophically and getting into the depths of life by using our brains, our minds, our whole body system. We need to take some time to deliberate on the question of what is a thought? What is it physically? And what is it in the abstract? Right? Because we all have thoughts. We have thousands, if not tens of thousands or more thoughts per day. We have them while we're awake. We have them while we're sleeping. We have them while we're doing anything, really. I mean, if anything, our brain is just a organic computer that's sole function is to conduct thoughts, create thoughts, receive thoughts, thought. That's what the brain does. It's a thought machine, right? Excuse me. So, what is a thought? Right? People have been asking this question forever. So, a thought, right? So let's start with the physical side of things. We know we have a brain, and thanks to all kinds of good people throughout the throughout human evolution, we've cracked open a few skulls and examined the brains, and we have MRIs to magnetically image brains and CT scans to look in there and see what's going on. And the best minds have looked into the best brains, and physiologically, they tell us that a thought is an electrical transmission within the brain that is bridging the gaps between neural connections in the brain. That's what scientists say physically a thought is. That within the skull, we have brains, and brains are organic computers, essentially. And that the way the brain works is that it is set up to accommodate electrical transmissions between certain nodes called synapses, and that the brain is an evolving living organism that can handle these electrical transmissions going within it. And in those electrical transmissions are great amounts of data, that the brain is formed by the changing nature of the neural synapses being connected in different patterns. Apparently, the sequencing of the networks within the brain matters, and that new ones can be developed. That actually is how brains grow, and that is how minds grow. And that the thoughts are these electrical transmissions and impulses traveling through the brain, carrying information to different areas of the brain in order to affect not just different regions of the brain for different processings of the information, but then to deliver it to different, essentially, command areas of the brain. Some of those being like the prefrontal cortex, where we get a picture of things. So thoughts contribute to our worldview. And then also to areas like homeostasis, where I forget the name of the area, but the portion of the brain that controls all of the autonomic functions of the body, sort of like the thermostat for the body. There's a control panel in there that computes all the body input and distributes all of the internal brain drugs to the body appropriately and helps us make decisions. And zooming back out on that pattern, so that's where the thoughts end up, right? The core command elements of the brain that support body functions and higher functions. And, when we think of thoughts, we like to think, well, it's just intellectual transmissions essentially, but that's not the case. Like, that's the end result of it. A thought is the end result of the body as a quantum biomechanical organism existing in this vibratory environment we call life. And the body is essentially an antenna for vibrations and an interpreter of vibrations using, at a minimum, our five common senses. And since we're in the 21st century, we've certainly documented to a scientific level the fact that we have additional senses that can perceive into other frequencies with repeatable, scientifically reliable results. It's like third eye, crown chakra, psychic abilities, whatnot. So the body is this fantastic vibratory interpreter of the vibratory environment we live in that includes emotions, senses, empirical data, and even picks up on things that we can't see in this reality and sends those vibratory transmissions through our body system. By the way, we have found out recently that the central nervous system also includes brain cells scattered throughout the central nervous system. So the brain is not strictly located in the cranium per se. There are brain cells that are found throughout the body, which means that all of the thinking is not, it's been decentralized at least a little bit. So there is more intelligent cells throughout the body than we had previously understood. So the body functioning as a vibratory antenna in this bioquantum manner sends the information back to the brain, and it never ceases. It's constant vibration, constant information being sent to the brain, never ceases. The brain collates it, sends it through its neural networks, which are electrical transmissions within the brain itself. And that's a whole area of study to determine how the transmissions are sent, how they're organized, what the patterns look like, like the categorization and the triaging of the information within the brain itself, the way it's computed, processed, observed. When is it brought to the conscious level of the person? Because the brain's doing functions and calculations on things constantly that we're unaware of. It's through practices, mindful meditations, concentrations, awarenesses, that we start to be able to examine the analysis that the brain is doing without our conscious thought. So your brain could have been working on a data collection and processing for a question you had 20 years ago, and then it's like, hey, that was a 20-year question, here's your answer. Right? So the brain, we don't really have a handle on exactly how it works. We just kind of know that it does. And philosophy is really a discipline of like trying to figure out how does our brain work, and how do we make it work better, really? How do we optimize it? How do we stimulate it and understand it and gain a relationship with the way we're thinking, which in turn affects the way we're feeling and the way we interact with reality. So what is the thought? What is a thought? So a thought is the distilled electrical transmission with information on it, which could be, all I know, it could have like all the quantum components and all the spiritual components and all of the base level fundamental electroplasmatic energies of the universe from which everything's made at the core of those thoughts, going zipping around in our brain, sort of being sorted like a coin machine into the different appropriate areas for eventual compilation that contributes to our worldview and our actions. And we certainly have executive functions within our brain that we can review these things and determine whether or not we like them or whether they go in. And that's where the fundamental nature of ideologies and intellectual operating systems comes into mind, of how we sort of determine how these things are going to get collated and incorporated into our worldview. a thought is a portion of that, and the thoughts, they don't stop. It's a constant stream. And through conscious living and mindful practices such as philosophizing, we can start to gain an observational understanding of thoughts in general, and we can make it more personal and get into our own thoughts to understand the nature of our thoughts, what level of refinement they're at, what level of understanding they're at, based on our life experience, our education, our awareness, pretty much any factor you can list that helps form us, helps form our relationship with our thoughts. And our thoughts are the core information and energy that are driving our experience. You know, where, from which materials, from which raw materials in life are we drawing the energy to create our thoughts, and what are the ideologies and understandings and mental setups that we have that are sort of refined. Like if the gross data from the outside world is the ore of our life experience, and our brain and mind are the refinement factories for this ore to turn it into the refined metals that it produces, you know, are we creating gold thoughts? You know, that's sort of a level to get to with our thoughts, like examining the nature of the final material of our thoughts that fuels our worldview. You know, and in a way, when we acknowledge the fact that our body, our existence, whether you restrict it to our physical bodily existence, the corporeal existence, or you want to extend it and transcend it into our soulful and consciousness-based existence, the thoughts, which are just the energy translation of the vibratory environment we're in, are the actual experience that we're having in life. Because we're just interpreting the electrical vibratory environment that we're in to our experience to have a self-aware experience of the experience. And the electrical vibratory nature of the interpretation of the environment through our system, through our brain, which is an electrical system, as it serves that electrical experience interpretation into our brain, mind, soul, and consciousness, and our consciousness being an essence that's in harmony with the essence of the universe itself, our thoughts are our actual experience. And that is the purest form in the body of the experience. And fundamentally, it is the experience. Everything else is just a sense that we're having based around that core experience. So what is a thought? The thought is our experience. Well, I hope you found this helpful, stimulating, thought-provoking, thought-inducing. I appreciate spending some time here at Philosopher's Corner with me, John. And what is a thought? What are your thoughts? Feel free to leave your thoughts, make your own videos. Thinking, it's where it's at. Have a good one.